It's a battle as old as time itself at this point. And that's which is really superior. Plastic miniatures or metal miniatures. Which one is really superior? Now, personally, I've always been a big fan of metal miniatures. I think they just rule. And I don't want to be too biased, so the plan is today to run some tests. Let's figure this out. Also, real quick, do you like my stand? It's just a box. So this metal miniature is, I believe, from the late 80s, early 90s. I'm pretty sure, I think so. And it's really, really pretty bloody cool. Compared to this one. Both orcs, but this is a more modern take on it. Now obviously it has a lot more detail. But is that really cooler? I don't know. For the first test, I want to give both a... It is really bloody raining. For the first test, I want to give them both a prime, just got the matte white, and see if it's easier to chip it off, essentially proving whether primer sticks to metal or plastic miniatures. Because, you know, when it comes to painting, the priming stage is relatively important. I actually just had another idea. I'll also use black spray paint, because that way, if I do one from each side, we can see if the primer and paint stick data differently. You get the idea. It is absolutely bucketing outside, so I don't quite know how I'm gonna prime them. It'll be fine, but for the sake of science, I'm gonna share my prediction. I think the primer will be relatively the same for both the plastic and the metal miniature. I don't think it makes too of a difference. But when I use just paint from one side directly onto the material, I think it will stick to the plastic a little bit better. I might be wrong, but that's just my scientific hypothesis. But I guess now I'll actually go do that. I wasn't very time efficient. So after I primed it, they had to dry, so I went and buggered off, got some Chinese food. It's been like an hour and a half, and as you can see, it's dark now. But the miniatures are all ready to go. So we'll start with the plastic. Now I'm going to use this bit sharp side. To scratch the primer and see what happens. The primer held on really, really well, actually. Only a couple very minor scratches, and I'm always putting some force into that, so I'm very surprised. Now we'll try the older metal miniature. You know what? Hate to admit it, but it's peeling off the middle one pretty easily. So the primer definitely sticks to plastic miniatures better than metal miniatures, and I think that's just because the plastic is... I'm not gonna pretend like I know. I'm not too sure. All I know is that it's a sad day. I'll put both of the images on screen now. So as you can see, the old metal one here has a lot more damage done to the plastic one. I applied a similar equal pressure for equal time on both sides, so I did this properly, scientifically, and unfortunately the middle one was a bit worse, which is really interesting. I think I'm sad, so I'm just gonna do the spray paint. Alright, black paint. You know what? The black paint is holding on better than the actual primer. And I wonder if that's the same for the metal one. Unfortunately, the primer, the paint is peeling off a lot easier on the metal miniature as well. So you can see I scratched on the staff of the spear, as well as on the stomach and on the thigh. I thought that'd be a lot more even. My hypothesis was a bit off. But that's what we're doing this for the signs. The next point I want to talk about is the process in which they are made and manufactured. And I think when it comes to the creation process of a miniature, the metal one takes home for sure. Because although plastic miniatures can be pumped out at rapid pace, they create a lot more wastage, such as sprues and miscasts. So when an error occurs, or after you've clipped out all the bits and there's still the overall sprue left, they just gotta get thrown out, which goes into the ground, which is not good for the environment. Whereas with trusty metal, any miscast can be chucked straight back into a pot, melted down again to be reused. Now, when it comes to things like kit bashing, my personal favorite part of the hobby, it's hard to argue that plastic is simply better. Super glue just works better with it. It does work with metal too, just not as good, and I think it's due to the weight. Maybe not, I don't know, that's just a anyway. And obviously plastic cement, because plastic miniatures are plastic. In saying that though, I do love to use as much metal miniatures as I can in my kit bashes and armies and projects that I do. There's another test that I want to do that is important to me and definitely important to you out there, and that is pricing. Plastic miniatures are obviously a lot more mass produced and made in definitely higher quantities, so I'm assuming it would have a lower average price. And the way we're going to do that, the way I found this number was by simply just going on eBay, looking at single plastic miniatures and single metal miniatures. Then I'll just take the average. And for plastic miniatures, the average price of a single miniature was $25.77. And the average price of a single metal miniature is a whopping $34.44. These are in New Zealand dollars, by the way. No doubt plastic miniatures are more affordable than metal miniatures. And I think that's just due to the sheer amount of plastic miniatures being pumped out by big corporations like Warhammer, Games Workshop. So in the end, to be honest, it's all in the eye of the beholder. I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do, but I can only tell you what I know and the facts. Plastic miniatures are, obviously technically more accessible, cheaper, affordable, and in many ways better. But I think there is definitely something to having a metal miniature, because due to the process, you can pretty much guarantee it was handmade or hand cast. And there's something to that. I love everything about miniatures, and especially metal miniatures. So it's a hard one for me. So I'll let you do the deciding yourself. I've got stuff to do, so I'm gonna go now. I'll see you soon, for sure. See ya.